We looking good back there, Blockhead? All set? Sweet, it's much gooder.
I'm in it now.
All right.
Not just a disembodied voice.
Alrighty guys, welcome to a very special episode of Yammy Noob out here in the middle of nowhere on Cement Ridge in Wyoming with the Harley-Davidson Pan America. This thing is basically the star of Sturgis right now because we're finally out away from all those big baggers.
I don't smell any Budweiser up here.
There's no Butt Rock, there's no Budweiser. It's almost feeling very un-Harley, right?
Ooh, like we're going into new territory.
New territory today. So we are going to give you our first ride and review of this motorcycle right here. Stay tuned, it's gonna be a good one. And the first thing that we gotta do is talk about specs. Now, Whitney, what are we working with in this bike right here?
150 horsepower in this ADV bike right yonder.
And how many torques?
94,000.
94,000. I think that's a little high. I think it's closer to about 94.
Okay, just 94.
But that's still a lot of torque. Harley-Davidson has positioned this motorcycle to be competitive with your Super Duke or your Super Adventures, your GS 1250s, even your Ducati Multistradas. And in that world, you have got to come correct. And guys, I gotta say, this bike feels very comparable to all those other motorcycles out there. And what better way to get out and test it than go ride it in the dirt and on the road. But before we do that, let's get a quick ergo check because we have Whitney on a lowered seat and basically set up for you, and then we have me on the stock motorcycle here. So let's get some ergo checks on both of these bikes.
So on my Pan Am, I had the reach seat in the lowest position, and at 5'8" with a 29-inch inseam, plus my ADV boots, I could flat foot this motorcycle very comfortably. The reach to the bars was also incredibly comfortable. I noticed no strain on my wrists or my shoulders.
So at 6'4" in my boots with a 32 or 33-inch inseam, this motorcycle's easy for me to flat foot thanks to the adjustable suspension, but also super easy for me to stand on thanks to the high handlebar height. The seat is super wide and comfortable, and for me, in the top position, the stock seat is basically perfect.
Alrighty, so we are out here testing the dirt capacity of the Dirt Glide. And Whitney, how are you feeling out there?
I'm feeling like I've got 28 kids at home and I make $100,000 a year and this is all I want to do. It's really addicting. I mean, you get out here, this is my first time besides, I don't know, going off-roading with the Scrambler clip-ons. You know, that was fun, but I feel pampered, this being my first off-roading experience, but this is dangerous. This is, I gotta go buy one category.
Yeah, I definitely feel that. This motorcycle has been so confidence inspiring all day. You know, I made a vlog a little earlier about my first raw impressions on this motorcycle. And honestly, it's only felt better the more miles I've put down on this bike. And, you know, obviously we're kind of just trundling along right here. But when I was doing my vlog, I was full gas, no brakes all the time. And the thing that blows me away the most about this motorcycle is how capable it is of just saving you from yourself. I mean, watch this right here. I mean, that was full gas for like 2 or 3 seconds. And, you know, I got up to 50 miles an hour, but, you know, I didn't feel like I was out of control. It didn't feel like the bike was gonna fall apart because it was, you know, using all of the electrical interruptions and stuff. It just felt like it knew exactly how much traction it had and how much throttle you were giving it, and it just found a happy medium between the two, you know?
Yeah, I'm out here, I'm nervous. I've never done this before. I've never ridden a bike like this. I'm not on my own bike. And it totally, all the tech in it is, like you said, really confidence inspiring. I'm not that nervous anymore, especially off-road. This feels great.
Yeah, it's really been surprising to me because, so again, like I said in my vlog earlier, I have never ridden a big heavy ADV bike off-road. I've spent a little bit of time on bikes like the 1190 Adventure. I haven't gotten the 1290 Super Adventure. I haven't had any seat time on that. And then I've ridden, you know, bikes like Yam's Scrambler and a couple of other ones here and there. And, you know, they're all a little bit huge and battleshipy, and this one is still a big bike, but it never feels like I'm getting all out of sorts, you know.
No.
The off-road mode is just taking me by the hand and ushering me down these beautiful trails, you know.
Yeah, it's a modern day Harley Davidson fairy tale.
How do the ergonomics generally feel for you as a smaller rider on a massive motorcycle?
I would say, so it's cool. Not only does you have a stock seat, you can get a lowered seat, and then each seat has 2 options to lower it, which is super cool. So I'm on the short seat, and we tried it at whatever the second height, which I enjoyed riding on highway speeds with that. But then obviously after the drop, we put it down just so that I could have more grip in the parking lots. And now I'm riding, I feel a little cramped.
How do you feel with the, how are you feeling about the suspension adjustment? Because I thought it was going to be weird and intrusive and annoying, but honestly, the only time I've ever noticed the suspension adjustment is when I turn the bike on.
Yes, that is also the only time I notice it. And I think when, you know, you're being demoed something like that is very, very visible, when you're standing still and then you get on it and you don't feel it, you're kind of like, what the hell, man, it's not doing that thing. But you don't want it to distract you, you know?
Yeah, I was definitely more than a little worried about how that was going to feel. It felt to me like it was going to just be strange and foreign, and like the bike was thinking too much for me, but you really don't feel it. And especially off-road, you appreciate having the lower ground clearance when you're coming to a stop, you know?
Yeah, oh, 100%. It's cool. It's kind of tapping into the technology that we're going to start seeing in newer bikes. And, you know, we're at this crux of revitalization with certain brands that are like, all right, our consumer base is changing and getting older and thus getting younger. So we got to think about them. Let's put some cool stuff in it.
Yeah, I mean, having a bike that's this new in a segment this packed takes a lot of balls, you know? You really have to come correct if you're gonna try and force your way into the adventure bike marketplace, which is so packed with so many crazy bikes that, you know, I think that it's doing a good job, you know? Admittedly, I need more seat time in other versions of these big bad ADV bikes, but, you know, I feel confident in saying that, you know, I'm gonna have a hard time finding a way for another bike to perform significantly better than this, you know?
Oh yeah.
For the off-road section, before we kick it back up to the mountaintop, thumbs up, thumbs down?
2 thumbs
lukewarm?
up. So sick.
Yeah.
This
I
is
agree.
the first Harley I've ever thought about, and now that I'm riding it, it's exceeding my expectations.
That's great. Well, guys, we're going to kick it back up to Spite and Whitney on the top of the hill and see what's up next. I think we're going to talk a little bit about street performance.
So bringing it back here on the mountaintop after riding it around in the dirt, and you'll have to excuse me if there's a lot of wind noise. I'm trying to cover it as best I can
We're on
here.
a bluff, okay?
Yeah, we're literally out in the
So
middle of
shove it.
nowhere. So if it's a little noisy, I apologize, but hopefully you're getting the gist. What is something that held this bike back for you in your mind on the dirt? Because we said a lot of nice things about this bike, but I don't think it's perfect.
But I sold my soul to Harley to ride this, okay, Spike?
So that means it's got to be perfect.
What bike is perfect? What bike? I mean, come on. Nitpicky, we both talked about how you cannot feel the rear brake at all.
Yeah.
I was rolling backwards in a parking lot going like, oh man, the brakes suck on this brand new demo bike. It's like, no, it's the boot, and it was just like kind of hard to get to. I feel like it should be like a bigger paddle, something that's easier.
Yeah, and it is worth pointing out though that we do have linked brakes on this. So if you grab your front brake, you will actually engage the rear brake. I believe it's about a 70-30 split on that. It's not just going to instantly jam on the rear brake for you. But you do have that linked brake, which actually came in handy. I thought I was going to hate it, but I didn't.
No, I thought I was going to notice it too. When you look at something new like this and you look at it on paper, you're like, that's going to be weird. Oh, that's weird. But then you get on it and you don't notice those things because you're not supposed to.
So something that I think was a bit of a bummer on this motorcycle is I could not, for the life of me, see this dashboard while I was standing up on the bike and looking down. I was looking through my sunglasses, I was looking through my helmet, and I could not read the dashboard. I didn't know how fast I was going. Not that it really matters because I wasn't setting any land speed records or anything, but it would be nice if this was a little, I mean, you do have a little adjustment here, but not enough to really be able to look down and see it at somebody who's like 6'4" in their boots like me. It was hard to read this dashboard, even in the day mode, because I did switch it from the black dashboard to the white dashboard, the super high contrast one, and it was still a little bit tough to see. And then for me, obviously, I need to get better at riding this bike in my moon boots, my ADV boots, but using the foot controls was a little bit hard at first. I did get into it, I did get used to it, but it took a little bit of doing. So with all that being said, let's get this bike out on the street and see how it fares as a sporty adventure bike.
Alrighty everybody, we are out here on the mean streets of Sturgis or Wyoming or wherever I am because I'm completely lost and I have no idea where we are. I'm just following the group. But we're out here testing the Pan Am on the road, and Whitney, how do you feel goofing around with this bike at, say, you know, low highway speeds, 50-60 miles an hour in these twisties?
I think this feels great. I think I love how it takes turns. It's easy to flick in. It can rev really high and it's still super smooth. The only thing is that we lowered my seat and I kind of wish it was back at stock height because I feel like a little cramped.
Yeah, I noticed that earlier when I was moving your bike around. I sat on it, and with the lowered seat height, it actually makes a huge difference. And it feels a lot more cramped. And obviously, you're on the the reach seat, and it's in the lowered position, so it's even more lower to the ground. But for me, I'm, you know, on the regular standard seat. I'm just chilling here at the standard top height, and it's a really comfortable place for me to sit. The pegs are in the right spot. The handlebars are a little bit high, which took some getting used to. They almost feel where they're at like mini apes almost. Like if they're any higher up, I could call them ape hangers almost.
You know, but we've been riding all day, and I thought at first that the bars were like a little much to reach. But you know what? My arms aren't sore. I'm not noticing any. My butt's not sore. My arms aren't sore. I don't know, man. This bike is pretty sweet.
Yeah, we've put down a lot of miles in the saddle so far, and it's been very amenable. And you know, I've been playing around with it a lot in the various riding modes, and I gotta say, sport is where it's at on this bike on the street.
Yeah.
It's definitely where it's meant to be hanging out, and you know, through a corner it feels fine. And I'm going to say this, and it's going to sound a bit like a pejorative, and I do not mean it that way. It's actually a good thing, and I'm going to explain it. But this bike is the least amazing on the road to me. It is so just good, you know? And that's what you want out of this bike. You want it to just be good. You don't want to get on the motorcycle and be like, oh, there's a problem with it on the street. Are you kidding me? It's exactly what you'd expect out of it. I think, you know, if you were to hop on this versus a, you know, Super Duke or Super Adventure rather, or GS, you'd be able to feel right at home on this thing. The power is super smooth and super easy to manage. Personally, I do not feel like I'm getting the full power out of this engine. I do not feel like I'm getting 150 horsepower, although I have yet to really ring it out to the red line. But don't get me wrong, this bike has a ton of power and a ton of punch. And in sport mode, the suspension feels, it's pretty stiff. You can really tell the difference between the different modes, and it helps keep this bike feeling predictable even on the side of the tire with these goofy knobby tires on here.
Isn't it crazy how smooth the ride is on these knobby tires at like 80 miles an hour?
Yeah, at highway speeds, it's super duper smooth. And you can see up there, I believe that's Paul or Blockhead standing up on his bike. This bike is so amenable to stand up on for a guy my height. It's so comfortable, I don't even feel like I need to adjust the bars at all.
What would you adjust? Would you start tinkering with like the rider modes?
Yeah, if this were my motorcycle, I would probably spend some time setting up my own sport mode. Like, so you've got rain, road, sport, and then you've got off-road and off-road plus. There's 5 rider modes. Off-road plus is like a pro mode, less traction control, less nannies, de-linked brakes, all of that stuff.
They really let you take control with pro mode.
Yeah, exactly. So plus is more like pro. I would probably sit down and I would remove the ride height adjustment because you can lock the ride height. I would probably, limit some things here and there. Just stuff to give me more control of the motorcycle. One flaw that I am feeling in this motorcycle, and I'm pretty sure you're hearing it in my voice right now, is at about 40 miles an hour, there's a weird shake in the tire. And that is down to the rubber and the suspension. It just creates this weird feedback loop. And I don't know, Whitney, are you feeling that on your bike?
100%. I felt it at 80 miles an hour. I'm feeling it right now, but as the day goes on, I really don't think I care. It's weird. I mean, you'd think you'd care. You're like, oh, it's a brand new motorcycle, it's expensive. I don't really want to be distracted by any sort of feeling. But I don't know, it's so much fun, and you can flick it in so well, and it's really agile that, I don't know, kind of falls by the wayside.
So, as a street bike, rounding this little segment out, I want to keep it a little bit short and tight because we got a little bit long in the dirt. And again, honestly, I think on the street, it's so exactly what you'd expect that it doesn't really need a lot of time spent on it. It's a really great street bike, in my opinion. What do you think, Whitney?
Yeah, I mean, I'd probably, what would you rate it? I feel like I'd rate it like a 6 out of 10 street bike. Well, maybe a little bit more, maybe 7 out of 10 since, we're taking these turns and it just does it. Like, you don't have to wrangle it, you don't have to do anything, it just does it for you.
Yeah, I'm going to go a little bit higher. I think that, I really enjoy the power out of it. I like how comfortable it is. I like how I could tour a long distance on this. Like, we've been on and off the bike all day long, and we've been doing big distance on it. Although it's only like 114 miles round trip that we've done. But I'm still feeling totally fresh. I think I'm going to give on the street like a 7.5 or an 8. But again, I think that 7.5 or an 8 is like, because it's not a CBR 1000 Triple R, right? It doesn't have that angelic front end feel. But it's not supposed to. It's an adventure bike, right? So
right, it's a $20,000 motorcycle, not a $30,000 motorcycle.
Yeah, but again, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying it ticks all of the boxes that it needs to tick, and it does it perfectly. So with that all being said, let's kick it back out to us on the bluff and get our final thoughts on this bike put together.
All right, let's do it.
Now, bringing it back onto the bluff one more time, I wanted to talk about some of the negative things. We did mention a little bit about that front tire on the road, There's a feedback loop that happens where at about 40 miles an hour, it starts to feel like you have a tire imbalance. That went away for me at anything over about 55 miles an hour.
Okay.
It really smoothed out for me. But it is worth pointing out that we are on the chunky knobs here, and if you're just on your Michelin Scorcher Adventure tire, the more round street profile tire, that one works a lot better. So I did talk with a guy who we're riding with from Harley Davidson who actually personally owns a Pan America, and he's been doing all of the stuff that we did today on these chunky knobs on his adventure tires, and he was doing just fine, and he did not have that. For me, the main thing that I noticed about this motorcycle is it didn't really feel like it had the full 150 at the wheel. I thought, you know, we had a great pile of torque. It was a lot of fun. But in sport mode, you really got to chase down all the power. It's at the very top of this bike. You really have to wind it out. You get that torque down low, and that's a lot of fun, but I also want it to switch to horsepower a little bit sooner.
2 thumbs up.
Yeah, I am wholeheartedly a fan of this motorcycle. This is actually one that I could see myself owning and having a lot of fun.
Saying that when these motorcycle companies keep coming out with really cool bikes.
I mean, guys, it sounds like we're simping for this motorcycle here a lot, but we kind of are.
Deal with it.
But also, it just is a very good motorcycle. We're getting to a point where it's hard to make a bad bike.
Yeah, for
but
sure.
Then that being said, there was a lot of margin for error on this motorcycle. There was a lot of ways that they could screw it up and cause this bike to not hit the market they needed it to. And honestly, I had a ton of fun on this motorcycle. I could absolutely see myself riding this thing across the country, across the world kind of deal. This was a great motorcycle to hop on, and I'm really gonna be sad when we have to give these back tomorrow at the end of the day.
How many bananas do you give it?
Ooh, how many bananas?
Whole bananas?
This is gonna get, I think this one is gonna get 8.5 bananas right here.
Yeah, just give it 9. Just give it 9.
I want to give it 9, but that front end feel is a little bit, it takes it out a little bit. I wish it was louder, guys. I wish it was louder.
So that's another half a point.
That's another half a point, and then the last half point was seeing the dash when I was standing up.
All right.
But
fair.
All that being said, those are little things that I believe you can adjust and work on this motorcycle. And for 20 grand, I think they landed this thing exactly where they needed to in the market segments. Alrighty guys, that is going to do it for us. We have more coming out with this motorcycle. We are also going to be spending some time with the Sportster S while we're out here. So stay tuned. We got a lot of awesome Harley coverage coming up. Keep yourself tuned into all of that. And in the meantime, I'll see you guys in the next one.
Woo-wee, I tell you what, there's another Yammy New video right over here waiting for you. It's Yosemite Yam, back at it again, upgraded from Cowboy Yam by popular demand. Tell you what, click on this video right over here, gonna get you cowboying, hooting and hollering, having all kinds of fun, cutting up with your buddies out there watching another Yammy New video. Woo-wee!